We learned nicely purchasing power parity, then interest rate theory, and Fisher's effect. So these three are very important. पक्का question है. So at least तुमको अंदाजा हो जाएगा कि what is basic difference or basic understanding between these theories, so you can prepare and you have to review it on your own. Yes, yes, yes. Now, see, this is something which anyways I started in the previous class, and I gave you a little introduction regarding what is purchasing power parity. Once again, I am repeating these conceptual topics. It is not completely conceptual. There is a little practical component also associated with this. But these topics which I am specifically taking up are very, very important from the examination point of view. 100% some question you can expect from these topics. So listen with that kind of understanding. So when you are preparing, you are able to manage it. Now see, when you are, these theories are basically taken from economics. The background is economics. The macroeconomic understanding under which these theories are being developed, and now we are adopting it here in the international financial management as well. So, because of the international interaction that we are having, we need to understand that how the estimation of exchange rate is going to be done. So, the estimation of the exchange rate can be done either on the basis of purchasing power parity or on the basis of interest rate. So, today we are understanding how on the basis of purchasing power parity exchange rate estimation can be done. So, what exactly I explained you in the previous class, most of the time, how are we determining purchasing power parity? By understanding, suppose if we are talking about any particular product, what exactly is the price that we are paying in any two particular countries? Like suppose if you remember when I was giving you the example in the last class, I told you that 1 kg of apple, there is a possibility that in India it is costing us 700 rupees, whereas in US it is costing us $70. Fine. So the actual basket of food or the product that we are talking about remains the same. It is not changing. It is common for US also. It is common for India also. But when the pricing of that basket of the goods needs to be done, it is different in Indian currencies and the American currency. So for Indian currency, we have to pay 700 rupees, whereas for American currency, we have to pay $70. So if we want to understand what exactly is the relationship between the Indian and American currency, how exactly we can identify the exchange rate between these two currencies by simply looking into the price that we are paying in rupees divided by price we are paying in dollars. So ideally, what are you going to get? You are going to get 10. So it means I am telling that $1 is equal to 10. So this is the parity that we are trying to define on the basis of the pricing of the products that are being done in two different countries. Are you catching up with the idea? Now see, this is the same thing we are talking about here. We are telling that it is an economic theory which proposes that the exchange rate of any two currencies will remain equal to the ratio of their respective purchasing power. Right? So this is what I have done. I have taken the ratio of their purchasing power. Purchasing power of a currency is measured as the amount of currency needed to buy a selected product or the basket of goods commonly available in two countries. So apple is commonly available in two countries, but if I am buying it in India, I am paying 700 rupees, and if I am buying it in US, I am paying $70. Clear? It focuses on the inflation exchange rate relationship. It is commonly called as law of one price. Fine. So when we are calling it as a law of one price, what exactly do we mean by that? What are they telling that? Purchasing power parity theory states that in the long run, the price paid for a product in two countries using different currencies will be same after the exchange rate differences have been accounted for. So what do we mean by exchange rate differences have been accounted for? It means that when we are talking about the levels at which two particular currencies are going to be considered as equal, this transaction will keep on happening. Fine. So when the transaction will keep on happening, there is going to be right now there is a continuous scope of some kind of benefits between the rupees and the dollars. Fine? Because we could clearly understand that for $1 I need to pay my 10 rupees. So what are we telling that in the international market, what all transactions are happening, they are continuously pushing these two currencies at a particular level where they are going to be at the same, the exchange rate is going to be at the same level. This itself is based on the law of one price, that is, price of a given commodity is same no matter what currency is used to purchase it. So that is what the law of one price is all about. It also suggests that change in purchasing power of the two currencies will induce the adjustment of the exchange rate towards new equilibrium point. Now see, there is how exactly we are going to understand this idea. When you are talking about Indian setup, so in the Indian market, there is going to be some total demand as well as the total supply. From where we are getting our total supply? It is the GDP of that particular year, from which we are going to understand how much is going to be the total supply in our country. So what exactly we are doing when we are creating this aggregate supply and aggregate demand curve for individual country, we are identifying this equilibrium level, which is going to give us the general price level of the economy as well as the at a particular level of the quantities that we have produced. Fine. So this is the equilibrium level of the country. Like this, equilibrium level at the international level is also going to be determined. So this equilibrium level tends to change depending on how the pricing of the product is going to change due to the inflation. Now suppose if aggregate supply for a particular year, if it is the GDP of that year, for that year it is not going to change, fine, but pricing definitely can change. So if the pricing is going to change, what is going to happen? Your equilibrium level is going to change with that, because if prices are going to increase, the demand for the product will fall down. And because when the demand for the product is going to fall down, your equilibrium level is also going to change. So once it changes, it means there is going to be new price level and new quantity for that given price that is going to be determined. Fine. Now see, what are they telling further? They say that this theory considers foreign exchange as a commodity. Fine. So if I am in India, for me, US dollar is a commodity. Fine. under gold standards, the exchange rate can be stated in terms of the price or mint parity of gold. That was the earlier system where on the basis of what level of gold reserves we are maintaining, the value of the currency is going to be decided. But in the flexible and floating rate system, it completely depends on the currency. Yes. So we are basically looking into what level of movement of the currency is happening at the international level and how much amount of foreign exchange any particular country is able to maintain. On the basis of that, the value of the currency for that particular country is going to be determined. So to determine the exchange rate, purchasing power of the new currencies can be considered. So what is going to help us in maintaining the purchasing power of our currency? Definitely, if we are capable of keeping inflation in control, so the pricing of the product is not going to increase too much. At the same time, productivity is increasing. So if the more productivity is going to be there, definitely more income generation is going to happen. So people will have more money in their hands. With certain level of the prices, more consumption can happen. So in other words, the exchange rate of two currencies can be determined on the basis of product of commodities that can be purchased by the currencies. According to this theory, exchange rate are determined by what each unit of the currency can buy in terms of the real goods and services in its own country. Now, these assumptions I have very detailed discussed with you, so I am not going to take it up. We are talking about the determination of the exchange rate. So this is something which I have already explained to you. What are they talking about? They are telling that when there are two currencies A and B, and if we have to determine the exchange rate between them, the simplest way is identify what is the purchasing power of those currencies, and the ratio of the purchasing power can help you in determining the exchange rate for that particular currencies. So the same thing we have done. For 1 kg of apple in Indian rupees, the purchasing power is 700. For US, it is $70. So the purchasing power of rupees divided by purchasing power of dollars, it is giving you the exchange rate that you have to follow. So for $1, 10 rupees is the exchange. Now we have also tried discussing the role of inflation in maintaining the purchasing power for a particular country. So they are very clearly telling that purchasing power of currency is the function of inflation, which means high rate of inflation of one currency in relation to another will reduce the purchasing power of the currency. So if in your country the inflation rate is increasing, the purchasing power of your currency will go down. That is the reason why all the countries are so much concerned about maintaining the inflation rates in their countries. They do not want them to go up too high.
But when you see the other side of inflation, inflation is cash flow into the market. If you spend money, then inflation will high. When inflation is spending
That is there. If you are spending money, then see, देखो inflations are, if you are looking into inflation in this manner, there are two types of inflations, that is demand pull inflation and cost push inflation. Fine. The concept that you are talking about is when the demand for the product is increasing, but because of that increased demand, prices are increasing. That is a demand pull inflation that we are talking about. Similarly, if the pricing of the factor input is going to increase, because of that also the prices of the product is going to increase, that will be cost push inflation that we are talking about. Fine. So when we are looking into the inflation idea, we have to simply understand that inflation rate has to remain in the control of the economy to maintain the purchasing power of the rupee. This is what you have to understand. Now this means that the exchange rate between two currencies will change in proportion to the ratio of inflation rates between the two currencies. So what exactly I am telling? That if the example here. So what exactly in this particular formula that they are giving us here is where they are telling forward rate by spot rate. So forward rate by spot rate, it is basically equal to 1 plus I code divided by 1 plus I base to the power n. So what do we mean by this? 1 plus inflation in the variable currency divided by 1 plus inflation in the base currency to the power number of years. So this is the mechanism through which we can identify the relationship between the forward rate and the spot rate, that by how many units it is going to change, or in what proportion your spot rate, your forward rate is going to change in comparison to your spot rate. So they are telling here I is the inflation rate of the core currency and I base is the inflation rate for the base currency, n is the number of years until the date of forward rate. Like if you are trying to identify 3 months forward, 1 year forward, so that is going to be your n component. Now let us look at one particular example here. What are they telling? They say, let's say the exchange rate is quoted as US dollars per pound, that is pound per USD. In this case, the USD is the base currency and pound is the core currency. Fine? So what are they telling? That in case if we have to determine the forward rate, what formula we are going to use here? We will consider that spot rate into how many points there is going to be the change in the currency. So those points you will consider in the spot rate to identify your forward. So this is basically assimilation of inflation into the spot rate to identify your forward. See?
USD per GBP, right?
USD
per GBP means for 1 GBP how much USD you are getting?
No, type हो गया. That is pound per USD. I just see. Right? So we are considering here like this. So what are they telling now here? They are telling pound per USD. So when we are telling pound per USD, in this case, USD is the base currency and pound is the core currency. Now, in case if I want to identify the forward rate for this particular currency denomination, what I am going to do? I will be considering the spot rate between pound per USD dollars, and then I will multiply that with the change in the inflation rate between pound and dollars. Yes? So how exactly it is going to be? Because I am telling the core currency is pounds, so that is going to be inflation of pounds divided by inflation in dollars. Fine. So with this I will identify how much change is possible in the proportion of the currencies, and that I am going to include into the spot rate to identify my forward. Right. So what are we telling now? See, for the sake of simplicity, we are going to ignore the bid-ask spread in the following example. Now see, what are they telling in this example? They are telling that the price of a standardized basket of goods. Now suppose, I will just create. Suppose I am telling this is our basket. Okay? When this is the basket, there are two different countries that we are talking about. We are talking about here as pounds and here as dollars. What are the telling that if this particular basket you want to buy in pounds, how many pounds you have to give? You have to give 13,000 pounds. Similarly, when you have to buy it in the dollars, how many dollars you have to give? You have to give $18,000. Let us test whether purchasing power parity exists if the current USD GBP exchange rate is 1.3800 dollars per pound. ठीक है? So what are they telling? The estimated exchange rate as per purchasing power parity will be. So now what are they giving us? They have given us this spot rate, that this is the exchange rate that they are giving us, and then they are asking us to estimate it as per the purchasing power parity. So how are you going to estimate it as per the purchasing power parity? It will be 18,000, that is the purchasing power of dollars, divided by 13,000, that is the purchasing power of the pound. So what exactly is going to be the exchange rate as per purchasing power parity? How much? 1.3846. 1.3846. Fine. And what are they quoting? That is 1.3800. Fine. So what are they telling? That which is quite near the 1.3800, which is prevailing in the market right now. So what we can say that yes, to a greater extent, there is a purchasing power parity in the US dollars and the pounds. Parity means कि दोनों का purchasing power बराबर ही है. This is what we are trying to say, that दोनों currencies की purchasing power equal है. Equal क्यों है? Because the exchange rate that you have calculated as per purchasing power parity is very much closer to the prevailing exchange rate in the market right now. So we can say that as because both the exchange rates are close to each other, both the currencies are having almost equal level of the purchasing power. Clear about it? So real life spot rates may be quite different than the rate estimated using purchasing power parity, because currency exchange rates are determined by the number of market conditions. So there is a possibility of variation. So when this variation is too much, we can clearly say that the currencies are not having same level of purchasing power. But if that is closer, we can clearly see that the currencies are having purchasing power parities. Clear? Now, when I was talking to you about purchasing power parity, I gave you the clarity on that there are two methods of looking into this parity idea. First is absolute purchasing power parity, and second is relative purchasing power parity. So purchasing power parity concept is clear to us. Now we are going to understand what is the basic difference between this absolute and relative idea. So what are they telling? That in the olden days, gold became the basis for determination of the exchange rate because it commanded good demand all over the world. Today, gold is like any other commodity. Thus, in the olden days, purchasing power parity was based on gold prices. According to Jamaica Agreement in 1976, gold was demonetized. Demonetized meaning, now you all understand, no? That particular thing is not having any transactable worth anymore. Fine. The purchasing power parity and the exchange rates are not determined or governed by single commodity like gold. Now it comprises of the basket of commodities in which gold is only one commodity. And considering that basket only, the complete purchasing power is going to be determined. Now see, All the countries are having their own baskets. To be very clear in a precise manner, that there is a possibility that there are going to be certain items in the basket which are common for all the countries, depending on the requirement or the demand of the consumers in that particular country. With that, there can also be certain items which are different. So that is something we have to understand, that for every country they can have their own basket, and according to that basket they will be deciding their purchasing power. Like, all of you remember what is wholesale price index? What is wholesale price index? Wholesale consumer price index, wholesale price index, these price indexes are there, no? These all price indexes are basically talking about in that basket at one go what consumers are buying. Fine? So it is related to that. Now see, yeah, what are they telling here? They say thus, the exchange rate, a basket of commodity which have common utility among the natives, will be considered. Fine. So the value of the commodities in different places may differ according to their customs, traditions, cultures, beliefs, etc. For determining inflation rates, every country forms a common basket of goods in proportion to their utility to the people. Based on variations in the prices, inflationary tendencies are determined. Fine. So what are we talking about? Like, suppose if I am considering certain three items in my basket. So these three items are going to be considered as per how much proportion they are having and what is the price of that particular proportion. On the basis of that, complete basket value is going to be determined. Fine. And as the inflation rate changes, the value of that particular basket is also going to change. Like, suppose I will give you some example here. Suppose we are talking about Indian scenario. We are considering three items here. Suppose as most important items in our basket. Now I say 3 kgs of apple. One apple priced as 1 kg apple is priced at 100 rupees. Plus 2 kgs of oranges priced as 50 rupees per kg. Plus 50 rupees plus 5 liters of milk priced at 50 rupees. So can you tell me what is the value of this particular basket? It is going to be 300 plus 100 plus 250. So this is basically 750 rupees. Fine. So if I am talking about this 650. If I am talking about this particular basket, at present, if you are buying in India, it is going to come for 650 rupees. But due to inflation, if the prices are going to change, automatically the value of this basket is also going to change. Fine, so this is what we are telling. For determining the inflation rates, every country forms a common basket of goods in proportion to the utility to the people. Based on the variation in the prices, inflationary tendencies are determined. So, if the prices are increasing, we can say inflation rate is increases. If the prices are going down, we can say that inflation has gone down. Now, inflation influences exchange rates. Two countries, India and China. Suppose we are considering here. Why this slide is cutting here? So what are they telling? They are telling two countries, India and China. If the inflation rate in India is 20% and that of China is 0%, what is going to happen? The Indian rupee, what happened? The Indian rupee will depreciate in comparison to Chinese yuan. Fine. In other words, Chinese yuan will appreciate when compared to Indian rupee. Why is this happening? Prashant, can you tell me why this change in why this depreciation and appreciation is happening? Because of the inflation. So formerly the currencies were in an equilibrium proposition and were traded INR 5 is equal to 2 yuans. On account of inflation, the position can be now 6 Indian rupees is equal to 2 yuans. Now see what are they talking about? They are telling that because in India inflation rate is 20% and in China it is 0%. Because of that, initially if the relationship was like that, we are talking about 5 rupees is equal to 2 yuans. Because of this change in the inflation rate of India, now there is a possibility that 6 rupees we have to give for 2 yuans. Now Chinese get more Indian rupees for their yuan and they can purchase more goods from India by giving their yuan. This will increase Chinese imports from India or Indian export to China. Right? So this is thereby increasing demand for Indian rupees from Chinese who pay in terms of their yuan. Demand for Indian rupees leads to increase in the exchange rate of Indian rupees and increased supply of yuan tends to reduce the price of yuan. So फिर से rectification होगा. So whenever this kind of change happens, what is going to happen? Because now China is doing more of the imports. So Indian rupees demand is going to increase in the market. Now because Indian rupees demand is going to increase and because China is importing, definitely supply of yuan is going to increase in the market. So that means again because of the increase in the supply of yuan in the market, this will come down and because of the increase in the demand of the rupee in the market, this will again go up. Fine. So this ultimately through the interaction of the market forces, exchange rate reaches again in the equilibrium position. Is it clear? Now, as we are talking about, if the exchange between Indian rupee and US dollars in the direct quote is given as 62 rupees equal to $1. So if a good is costing 124 rupees in India, the same good of same quantity and quality and brand should cost $2 in US market. How exactly they are telling $2? Can you tell me? How are they determining $2?
124 divided by 62.
So then you are getting $2. So this is how, in case if this base we are trying to estimate the value of any particular good, we are basically trying to do it as per the parity idea. So then it is called a parity condition, that is the law of one price. Because we are going as per what is the purchasing power parity between India and US. If the cost changes, then commodity arbitrage is possible. Cost changes means suppose that instead of 124 rupees, now the cost is becoming, maybe we say 105 rupees. So if that is the situation, what is happening? As per the parity, the price of the good has gone down. So it means now the goods can be purchased at the much lesser price from the India and they can be sold at the higher prices in US and there is an arbitrage profits that can be clear. So this is the absolute purchasing power parity. Now when we are talking about the relative purchasing power parity, it is the relative version of PPP postulates exchange rate between home currency and the foreign currency. It will adjust to reflect the change in the price levels of the two currencies. So the change in the exchange rate over a period of time should be proportional to the relative change in the price levels in two nations over a period of time. Now see. What are they talking about? They say if inflation in India is 5% and in US it is 2%, then the rupee value of the US dollars must raise by 3% to equalize the rupee price of goods in both the countries. क्योंकि हमारी currency 3% से depreciate कर रही है. If we really want to have that purchasing power parity, we have to really settle for that change which is there in the inflation rates of both the currencies. So to calculate relative purchasing power parity, this is the formula that we are following. ET is representing purchasing power parity rate in future in a particular period of time. E0 is present exchange rate. IM is the inflation in the home country. IM is the inflation in the foreign country. Note down this one. Fine. So what are they telling here? They are telling, let us look at one example. They say that in US and Switzerland, annual inflation rates are 5% and 3% respectively, where US is the home country. The spot rate is 1 Switzerland dollars or Switzerland, what do we call Swiss? And one Swiss francs is equal to $0.75, and now they are asking us to calculate the purchasing power parity rate after 1 year, 2 years, and 3 years. Fine. So how are we going to do that? So what exactly is the formula that they have given us? Let us look at it once again. It is talking about purchasing power rate in future in a particular period by the present exchange rate. Then we are talking about the inflation rate in the home current country and inflation rate in the foreign country. In this problem, they have clearly told that our foreign country is Switzerland and home country is US. Now they are asking us to find out the what is going to be the purchasing power parity rate after 1 year, after 2 years, and after 3 years. It is very simple. So when you are identifying your purchasing power parity rates, what are you going to do? You will be simply working out your future parity rate by considering what is your home currency's inflation rate. So 5% is our home currency's inflation rate to the power. First we are calculating it for 1 year time period divided by what is your foreign country's inflation rate. The whole multiplied to the spot rate that they have already
But the
given.
formula is no spot rate. In formula they are not mentioning spot rate.
Spot rate is 1 Switzerland.
No, the formula.
No issues, no. That is the formula is talking
You
about.
have in previous formula you have mentioned forward rate equal to spot rate into 1 plus.
Yeah, this is basically that they are talking about how the inflation rate for both the countries need to be considered. 1. So this is what we are doing. देखो एक्सचेंज रेट के लिए हमको at what rate adjustment is happening वो देखना, ठीक है? अगर when you are going through purchasing power parity, the reason is inflation. So you have to understand at what rate inflation is changing between the two countries. According to that, your spot rate will get affected and you will get a new future or forward rate. Fine. When you are going to look into the interest parity theory, this idea is going to change. Then you are not talking about inflation rate, you will be talking about the interest rate. Clear? So like this you can calculate it for any number of time periods that we are talking about. It can be 1 year, it can be 2 years, it can be 3 years, and accordingly you can identify the forward rates. Fine? Is this clear? So all these forward rates that you are identifying right now are as per your purchasing power parity, that is PPP theory. तो अगर आपको कभी भी कहीं प्रॉब्लम में, वैसे तो इतनी प्रॉब्लम नहीं आते हैं, इसका थ्योरी भी पूछेंगे वो आपको, बट इन केस ऑफ एनी प्रॉब्लम इफ दे आर गिविंग यू इन्फ्लेशन रेट्स and they are asking you to identify the forward rates on the basis of inflation rates, it means that you are supposed to apply your PPP theory to identify the forward rates. Fine? Is this clear? So these are the answers. You can note down if you want, and you can later on try it on your own. So till here I am closing today's class. So this is what your purchasing power parity is all about. Now on your WhatsApp group I am going to share some practice problem. All of you are supposed to do.
I will share the academic.
Huh?
Academic code.
No, I don't. What I want to like to be exactly.
Okay, directly to give the academic. I could you have submit only. No problem.
This you are doing now.
No, not.
अच्छा assignment you are asking hard copies. Hard copies or you can always hard copies. I will check it from the academics. In case if they want us to maintain the hard copies of the assignments, then I will give hard copies only. Or if they say that we can make the soft copies, then I will create the academy of the students. Or now we have our college portal also. No, you are supposed to upload on that also. Are you accessing that college portal?
No.
You are not accessing that. Alright, then I will check your teacher. Fine, so kindly open your WhatsApp. These problems are general problems just to give you a little kick in your minds related to the exchanges that which are happening. So do not feel all are basic. I have not put anything very tricky on this. You do it now. What simple questions are there? Nothing.
How many questions are there?
Reading questions.
Huh?
80.
Ajit is there, no? Pranay is there. Prathamesh is there. Milan is not there. Padmini is there. Prashant is there. Pawan is there. Alright. So I will just call out the name of the people who are present. That is Vismaya, Ajit, Pralay, Prathamesh, Padmini, Pawan, Prashant. That's it.
बस ऐसा ही लिखना है.
Mansur is in the house.
Hmm?
What will the answer, right?
We will tally it now. Do it. जितने हो जाएंगे आपने उतने करना है, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. दिस इज जस्ट फॉर योर प्रैक्टिस पर्पस. Tomorrow's class I will tomorrow anyways now Monday you will be having class. So I will Monday do I have a class with you? One class I think first hour na. I will try to wind up interest rate parity and Fisher's effect. So वो over हो जाएगा. उसके बाद we will go to the swapping and all those topics. I will hedging and swapping and all that.
Now, one question.
What happened?
This is dollar per pound. Dollar per pound. So you add R is dollar rate. R is dollar. Now we read 5 questions.
Will please try more.
Better right now. Okay, we will read 5. How many do you get? Of me. Which level?
Five.
5.
Five.
I want to do 5. Let go to
अच्छा मैं ऐसा करती हूँ आज ना तुम लोग ये खत्म करना ये करके मुझे भेजना
नेक्स्ट क्लास में लोग है आज
नहीं आज नहीं है ना I was having 4 to 5 class no but that class I'm taking now this was Selviman's class
ओ तो अभी तो कर सकते हैं ना आप अभी आप ही लेंगे ना
नहीं मुझे actually due to some reason I am taking this hour so she will be taking that
तो अभी ना आपकी का क्लास है ना अभी
no now I think
Oh.
What one more thing what I am telling you is I have got 3 previous year question papers. That also I will put on the WhatsApp group because as I am telling you in that question papers there is one particular question from purchasing power anti also. Like the way I have asked, I told you how to calculate your inflation rate differential.
This question are from the previous
So
question.
when in case if they are asking you to identify inflation rate differential, this is the thing that you have to use. Fine. And if they have given you the spot rate and they are asking you at the end of the year what possible rate is going to be there, then you have to consider the spot rate into the inflation rate differential to identify whatever is going to be your forward after 1 year. So there is one problem like this. That's what I was checking. So I will share it. You start solving those previous year question paper problems so that you will get some confidence that whatever we are doing in the class you are understanding.
Do you have any guest study today?
Guess it?
No.
Is there any information like that for you?
No.
I am not.
Uttar
That in case it is going to be there.
Instead I will go somewhere.
No, I am sharing question papers also.
कहो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन का आंसर भी दे
1.05 1.5
फर्स्ट 0.274
0.175 Second one is 1.085.
274, हाँ. Second question 1.085.
Third one is -5.370.
Minus 5.370.
Fourth one is 0.9795.
नहीं 80.04. 78.91.
Do it no by wasting your time. This is actually required. बिल्कुल basic questions है. All are very basic. Just to trigger your mind.
मैम इसको करके आपको भेजना है.
अगर if you are solving all that properly, you can just take the snapshot of this and put it on the WhatsApp. So others can check the solution also, and I will get the assignment.
ये फिर रॉन्ग होगा तो सब कोई मुझे मारेंगे आगे.
If it is going to be wrong, then one solution with this I will send you later on. Fine, that is not your concern. All that I will take care of.
It's already given. Now, why you divide
ये क्वेश्चन पूछा है.
AM and एटा बच्चा ना. तो किम कैडर अछि एतिकी आरो अल्टरा कैडर अछि.
F50 पर DM बचने से.
ये नंबर अछि.
मैम ये
देखो पूछले FF and AM अछि तो $5 थोड़ा बड़ी दे दी है $5 दे दी इनटू डॉलर बाय DM करके तो इधर 8 और
उसके लिए DM में टर्नर
हाँ तो चेंज
करना पड़ेगा
हाँ वो चेंज की
तो देखो रॉन्ग आंसर है
तुम्हारा रॉन्ग है मेरा सही है. ये सही है ना मैम.
Okay, if this is the code and you want the reverse of this, you will take one by of this now to get the indirect.
कैलकुलेशन कुछ करते हो. वैसे
ए ये राइट तुम करेक्ट कर हो जाएगी. ये सही
What
है.
have you done? You have not changed.
बट मैं कैलकुलेशन में गलती हो गई.
हाँ. You people do it all. Then in case if you will feel confused, again I will sit and we will solve it. Because this is very important. If once you will get through with the currency change, then only the other things will come fast.
और अभी फर्स्ट प्रॉब्लम जो भेजे थे उसका आंसर है आपके पास.
All the answers are there.
हाँ मेरा आंसर निकल गया फर्स्ट.
मैं मेरे करती हूं और आपको प्रिंट आउट करके दे दूंगा ना प्रिंट आउट करके दे दूंगा
कहाँ पे
मैं असाइनमेंट कैलकुलेट कर दूंगा.
Why are you writing on this when I have asked you?
I will print out I will print PDF for that.
Do whatever.
एते अछि की एते ऐसे में पूरा फुल सब क्वेश्चन आंसर अछि तो बहुत बढ़िया काम करछो. नहीं ये सब कहा को देबो नहीं दिया. अब कहा को बिल्कुल भी देबो.
ओडिशा से क्या पढ़ने नहीं
नहीं मैं तो ये तो कैसे बोलूं.
ना मैं तेरा मतलब दूसरा दाना बात ए इट इज रॉन्ग यार. बात हमने भी आप 1 लाख भरे भाई सेमेस्टर के हमने भरे भाई. तू भी मत कर यार. ये क्या है? व्हाट इज दिस? तू भी तो कर. व्हाट इज दिस? कैसे है यार? दे ना.
नहीं दूंगी मैं.
तेरा नहीं है.
नहीं मैं उसी को दूंगी. बोलेगा तुमको
यार तुम्हारा पूरा रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है इधर.
इसको बंद करना है. बंद करिए.